Hi, I'm really delighted to be here as a speaker at Host City 2021. It's not my first time at this conference, so it's a real pleasure to come back in a different capacity as the Chief Executive of the Commonwealth Games Federation. I've been given a bit of a brief on what to cover, a little bit about myself and my journey to this role, very importantly about how excited we are about Birmingham coming up, and then also kind of talk about a little about the future and some of our plans from the Commonwealth Games Federation. So first, a bit about me. I often talk about myself as being a Commonwealth child, and that is very appropriate in terms of this role. I was born in Scotland, brought up in Canada. I have a father who's Australian. My mother is Scottish. My grandfather is South African. So I've really got quite a bit of the Commonwealth covered. And it really was very useful when I was the Assistant Chef de Mission of the Commonwealth Games in Victoria. I called myself the Commonwealth Kid. I've had the privilege of being involved in multi-sport events, significant global multi-sport events for most of my life. I competed in the 1984 Olympic Games with my sister in synchronized swimming. I got a bronze medal at the 1986 Commonwealth Games. I then went on to be involved in a couple of World Aquatic Games, but more importantly, kept my association with the Commonwealth Games, attending 6 different versions of the Games in a different capacity, from both being the Assistant Chef de Mission, from being a person on the bid committee when Wellington was looking to bid against Melbourne for the Games, and for several of them, looking after New Zealand government's investment in the Commonwealth Games, so doing the overarching debrief of our performances, and also looking at how we got involved in investing in the performances on a world stage. I've worked in sport for a very long period of time. Starting off just after the Commonwealth Games in '86, I finished my Master's in Sports Management and worked for, I guess, the Crown entity that was responsible for sport for about 20 odd years. Starting off initially looking after volunteers, which is really exciting when I look at the huge volunteer program that's been put in place for Birmingham. Moving on to looking after club development and NGB development. I got involved in helping set up the New Zealand Major Events unit, which looked at how we were going to recruit and host major events. And then my legacy in the New Zealand environment was very much the high performance system, where I was given this amazing job of having a look at good practice around the world back when Sydney had the Olympics, and creating a New Zealand high performance system that has achieved an amazing results, going from 4 medals to 20 medals at the last Olympic Games. I then moved on. I took the opportunity to move internationally and worked for the last 5 years as the general manager of women's rugby for World Rugby, which was an absolutely amazing job, given the opportunity to accelerate the global development of women in rugby. And it was in that capacity I was last at this conference. And it gave me a good opportunity. I had just arrived at the time when the World Cup was about to start in Ireland. And so when I look now at taking on this role as the Chief Executive of the Commonwealth Games Federation, really looking forward to Birmingham. So let's talk about Birmingham. Wow. You know, in my first week in the job, I was given the opportunity to observe the organizing committee. I probably didn't have a lot to contribute at that stage, but I was really blown away at how far advanced all the planning is. Everything's on track. This is going to be an absolutely spectacular event in Birmingham next year. 4,500 athletes from around the world, 19 sports, 14 world-class venues, 11 days of activity. It all is really steering itself for being the event of the year. It's the largest event in the UK since London, and it's the largest event ever in West Midlands. And in looking at how the commitment of the investors, the cities, the government, the commercial partners, this is just going to be out of this world. So really, really excited. And I think that some of the really exciting things about Birmingham that I learned in my first couple of weeks was that we're really setting the benchmarks in terms of sustainability and inclusivity. This will be the first multi-sport carbon neutral event. I learned about the plans to establish Commonwealth forests around the region, which are so exciting. And the fact that there's a huge program of skills training which is aiming to reflect the population of Birmingham. So we're going to get a real mix in terms of diversity and inclusion of the people that are volunteering, that are working with us on this Games. Some of you will remember not long ago the Queen's Baton Relay took off. It's on a journey around the world, 72 countries, 140,000 miles that's going to travel over 292 days before it hits back here and starts its journey to the opening ceremonies. So all in all, it's going to be an absolutely great time in Birmingham next year. But my aim in my role is because most of that planning is clearly done, and I'm here to add whatever value I can as I meet with volunteers and the administrators and listen to the visions and the dreams of the athletes that are going to participate. My main focus right now is thinking about the future beyond Birmingham. We have a big work program that we've just engaged and set up on after doing extensive consultation around the world to develop a 2026-2030 roadmap for the Commonwealth Games. The Commonwealth Games has been around for a very long time. It's steeped in tradition. We're almost at our centenary. So there has been 21 versions of the event so far. But with all things that are built to last, they need to be built to improve. And so we've spent some time thinking about what does the Games of the future look like? How do we create an event that is incredibly relevant and aspirational for the people of the Commonwealth? 2.5 billion people in the Commonwealth, 60% of them under the age of 30. That is a real message for us in terms of making sure we get it right. It's not about chucking away the past. We've got some foundations in terms of the sports that have participated in the Games that have absolutely brought us to the forefront of elite sport. But we do need to innovate. We need to evolve. We need to adapt, we need to be flexible, and we put in place a program that we've just launched which actually looks to do just that. There is a series of recommendations that have been accepted by the Commonwealth Games Federations with our members at our latest AGM, which looks at how we create a flexible Games, which looks at only having 2 compulsory sports, athletics and swimming, and creates the opportunity for far more core sports to be reflective of where the country is that it's hosting it. We're also really keen to make sure that the Commonwealth doesn't just take place in our major nations. We want to see the full members have the opportunity. So we're encouraging people to think about co-hosting, whether that's co-hosting in cities or countries or regions. We're looking for innovation in how we pull the Games together. We know that Games can be costly, and so we have put in place recommendations which reduce costs and increase benefits in terms of host city legacies. We don't want huge amounts of money invested in infrastructure like villages. We're looking for creative solutions to make the most of existing buildings to work together in an innovative way. We're also keen to sort of have the Commonwealth Games not just be an event that happens once every 4 years. We're committed to the Youth Games, but also to actually working with the international federations to look at how we create Commonwealth championships around the world. And then we're also, sitting down with organizations like the Global Esports Federation to see how we develop a Commonwealth esports strategy, because clearly with the youth market, we need to make sure that we are continuously being relevant to the youth as well. So that's probably enough from me. It's going to be here before we know it. What I can say is, from a personal perspective, I really look forward to working with many of you who are at this important conference and welcoming you to Birmingham for what will be the event of the year in 2022.
This is Birmingham, the biggest example of the changes made by the Industrial Revolution.
So I think the world can expect 3 things from the Games here. First of all, a wonderful sporting festival in some brilliant venues. Secondly, it can actually expect a brilliant business exhibition and cultural exhibition, which are important. But perhaps the most important thing of all, it can expect a brilliant welcome in one of the most culturally diverse places on Earth.
The countdown to Birmingham 2022 starts right now. Action!
I say we tell them the truth. We read their ancestors' manifestos and channeled them into stages like these. We are the artists, the activists, the protesters, the baristas, the CEOs, the cleaners, the firefighters, the police, the young people, the elderly. We are the athletes. We built this city.
And that's a wrap from Birmingham.
The superstar of world athletics.
Gold medal! It's England! Oh my goodness!
He remains unbeaten since the last Glasgow Commonwealth Games.